Hey y'all, and welcome back to the channel. On this page, I talk about technology and money and also trending news. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new here, thank you for checking out the channel. And I appreciate you being here. Today, I wanted to do a quick live on two healthcare technologies that caught my eye, and I wanted to talk about and share. And as always, I will be sure to leave a link to all articles as references in the description box once the live is over. So our first story comes to us today for this week, came to us, is from Healthcare Business News. And it's about using artificial intelligence to set surgical schedules. Say that fast 2 times. Using artificial intelligence to set surgical schedules. And what some researchers found at a health system in North Carolina is that algorithms driven by artificial intelligence were more accurate than human schedulers at predicting the length of time needed to perform a particular type of surgery. They were better at predicting potentially reducing risk of errors and also in reducing overtime costs. So why am I talking about this, and why is this so significant and important? So if you've listened to some of my other videos or know of another channel I've talked about a little bit called Black Women Making Money on her channel, her name is Cherie. She talks a lot about how all women can find different ways, can find different ways to make money, how they can prepare themselves for a digital future, etc. And earlier this week, she did a live where she talked about and shared articles and research talking about how 80% in the future, 80% of women's jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence, or could be replaced by artificial intelligence. And in that live, she was talking about women digitally upskilling, no matter where you work, whether that's in healthcare, in finance, in real estate, in wealth building, etc. So this is interesting to me because from the healthcare perspective and looking at AI, for those who don't work in healthcare or not familiar, typically overwhelmingly surgeries for like hospitals, health systems, ambulatory surgical centers, etc., are done by human schedulers. So these are people who sit somewhere in the office, whether it's at home or within the facility, and they schedule surgeries for surgeons. So say if you have a surgeon, a plastic surgeon who performs like different types of augmentations and different types of cosmetic procedures, they have to have a human being in their office or that they contract out to manage that surgeon's operating room schedule. Because that is a really important job, because you need people who understand, for example, how on average it may take a particular surgeon to complete a particular procedure, like an appendectomy, taking out an appendix, or replacing a hip, or putting someone, installing a new knee in someone. And this surgery scheduler is responsible for not only scheduling surgeries for a physician or a surgeon, but also managing that schedule to ensure that surgeries don't overlap, ensuring that the physician has ample time between surgery cases to like rest or take breaks. And that also that, for example, too many patients aren't scheduled in a day, that the surgeon is not overscheduled or underscheduled. It really is a delicate type of game, type of skill. And it takes time to develop, and also requires, someone who's familiar with different healthcare terms and understands the operational workflows of working in a surgery center, wherever that is. So in this case, you all should be seeing my screen. So traditionally, surgery scheduling has always been done by a human. Now, there are technology platforms out there that already that assist a human scheduler with scheduling surgeries and costs and analyzing risk. But in this very recent research, these researchers found that in this study, it is published, peer-reviewed, published research. It was published in the Annals of Surgery. So if you want to go out and read if you're into like reading like the full research and looking at methodologies and outcomes, it is in the Annals of Surgery. But what they found was, in comparing 3 AI models trained on thousands of surgical cases, they found that the algorithms were 13% more accurate in predicting lengths of time for almost 34,000 cases performed, whether that was inpatient or outpatient setting. Again, for those who aren't in healthcare, inpatient means that the person has their surgery like at a hospital. Outpatient means that the person has their surgery like at an ambulatory center or somewhere similar to a doctor's office. But they found that the algorithms were more accurate by 13% in predicting the length of time of cases, meaning they were more accurate in predicting how long it would take that surgeon to complete the case. And they also found that the reduction in overtime hours for cases that went past regular working hours resulted in about $79,000 in savings over 4 months. That's a lot of money. $79,000 is not an insignificant amount of money in terms of savings. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about why savings and accuracy in scheduling and OR times, et cetera, is so important in a moment. But a little bit more about the data. They also found that the AI was assisted scheduler. So this was not just a non-human assisted algorithm. This was an algorithm that worked with the scheduler. So they found that the model helped the surgery schedulers to predict 3.4% more cases within 20% of the actual case length and 4.3% fewer under-predicted cases. And so this is important around case length and timing I was talking about just a minute ago, because in terms of surgeries is really important, like when you're scheduling cases and when a surgeon is performing cases, to keep as on time records and doing the actual taking care of the actual patient via the surgery as possible, because that is also tied in for some insurance reimbursements around reimbursements for that hospital, that provider, that health system. So it's really important for the scheduler to be accurate in determining how long is this case going to take and how much time is it going to take, and making sure that they are not under predicting how long or how short or how long it will take the provider to complete that case. So what they found was that this research, they found that is proof that machine learning models can be put into practice immediately in real world scenarios, and they're creating a framework to leverage, to be able to better predict surgical case length more accurately at case posting time. So that goes back to the time stamps and things that I was talking about, and how that's tied into reimbursement, which then translates into dollars. And then also how their framework could be potentially utilized to deploy other future machine learning models. So I wanted to talk about it real briefly and share it just again to talk about how important, no matter where you're working, whether you're a nurse, you work in healthcare, you don't work in healthcare, et cetera, to just be aware of the different ways that AI as a technology is changing how we do work, and the future of work for your career, and why it's always important to digitally upskill and just be aware of these technologies there as they're being implemented, in case, for this example, these surgery schedulers need to know, how they need to educate themselves to be aware, because who knows, in the future, could this technology just completely replace human schedulers, where there is not a scheduler at all, or instead of, say, for a hospital, instead of having 20 surgery schedulers, maybe they only need 5, because the algorithm is assisting those remaining 5 to do the work. And the algorithm, in this case, if it scales up to be more accurate, leads to a reduction in cost, and just better predicting different key performance indicators. Okay, and so then the second article I just wanted to share, which I found fascinating, it's not artificial intelligence, but it is robotics. And so the inventors who created the Apple Face ID, so many people use, I don't use it, but I know a lot of people use the Apple Face ID technology, use it. Some people may use it to, like, I don't know, unlock their phone, or I know different companies use it for things like security access, or the technology very, very similar to Apple Face ID. But the same inventors who created Face ID have now created a Micro-Robotic. Okay, and this Micro-Robotic is used for treated brain disease. And so these inventors now have a new startup called Burnout that uses a micro-robotic that is guided by magnets to assist physicians to guiding that micro-robot into the brain or into the patient's central nervous system, so that the surgeon or the doctor can, like, hit a targeted spot in a patient's brain to perform surgery, deliver drugs, or even obtain a tissue sample from the brain. So this is really significant, because if you're not aware of how difficult first of all, not all drugs can cross that blood-brain barrier. And in that case, sometimes, like, if a physician is treating a disease, they may have to treat the entire body versus just treating that very targeted part of the body that may need the medication. Okay, so let's see. Let's go into a deeper article. And again, it's a little bit long, so I will not read the whole thing. I'll leave a link again. So just very, very high level. So they talk about the startup. Oh, and this article comes from this news comes from Becker's and also the Times of Israel. All right, so the Micro-Robotic is smaller than a grain of rice and is guided through a patient's central nervous system into a targeted spot in the brain where it can perform minor surgery, deliver pharmacotherapeutics, or again, remove tissue for a biopsy. A biopsy, for those who don't know, is when you take you cut out a piece of tissue so you can send it, so it can be sent to the lab for testing. So, and they talk about how, like, current treatments for disease is difficult to do because it's not accurately targeted. So it goes back to what I was talking about, how sometimes you may have a disease that only needs to be treated, I don't know, in the liver, but you have to deliver medications through the whole body to get to the liver. And like they said, here, it's like flooding the whole body. It's like having one dirty dish in the sink and bringing out a fire hose that floods the whole house just to wash that single dish. I thought that was a great analogy. So they go on to talk about how the micro-robot is guided by the doctor using a magnet, can release targeted therapy directly into the tumor or any other localized target, even deep inside the brain. And that's where I was talking about being able to cross the blood-brain barrier, and how key that is. And this tool can do things that physicians aren't able to do. There is a YouTube video here. It's only 2 minutes. I will not play it because I don't know if it's like copywritten material, but I'll leave a link to it so you all can go watch it. It's very fascinating. In it, the inventor, the CEO, he talks about how the micro-robot works and how it's guided through the brain, and that they have tested this in animals in the lab, and they're now ready to begin trials on human beings. And so it's really interesting because they talk about, again, how it's designed to move through fluid. The shape of it, which is corkscrew, is designed to burn through tissue, and the sharp pointed can perform perform microsurgery by slicing through a cyst, for example, that causes different types of syndromes. And just a sidebar, what I saw in the video, and then also the description of how this small robot works and how it can burrow into the brain. If y'all ever seen The Matrix, part 1 of The Matrix, it sounds very similar to that piece that was installed in Neo in The Matrix, when it burrows into the brain or when they pulled it out. Okay. Anyway, so they talk about how they're able to minimize tissue penetration, making it safe and the shortest difference possible. And it opens a new way of treating brain diseases, which I found very fascinating. They talk a little bit about the magnetic technology behind it and how it can be controlled out from outside the body. Now, what they don't talk about, so, when I saw that this was a micro robot that is controlled, like it's implanted into a patient's brain and it's controlled by a magnet, and that magnet is remotely controlled from outside the body. Like, what is the distance between the longest amount of distance that can be between the patient and the person controlling the magnet for the robot? That's right. Does the physician have to be in the same room, or what's the range? Is it 30 feet, 50 feet, etc.? And then they talk about how the patient has to have like an MRI or a CAT scan, and then the provider can like map out their plan for injecting the robot into the person's head. They talk a little bit about the sedation. I wonder if it's conscious sedation or like the patient is totally sedated. But anyway, that's details. Okay, so they go on to talking about the market for these type of therapeutics, how most of it is drugs. So this one is different because this micro robot can deliver more than just drugs. Again, it can get tissue samples, and it can also perform like minor surgeries. And then it goes on to talk about how they're in talks with the FDA to get this into human trials next year, and their goal is to have it early human data available by the end of next year, and then in 2025 be able to license it out for neurological indications or just different brain indications. I found this very fascinating. This is just another way that technology is being used to advance patient care. I will try to keep on top of, because they said it's just now about to go to FDA and for FDA approval. And then they're hoping by next year, then 2025, to actually have data and research, things like that. This I love keeping on top of, because I always think about, when I read about these different technologies, how I'm a registered nurse and how these technologies will impact nursing practice, right? So these technologies are being created by physicians or technology people who've never worked in healthcare but are healthcare adjacent. So when I see these micro robotics, or when I was talking about the previous story with how AI is being used to improve surgery schedulers, right? Their work performance, which that's a role that's traditionally held by human beings. You have a human being who is managing a surgeon's schedule or schedules, but now research is coming out how AI is improving the accuracy of that and reducing costs. So in that case, AI, again, we see yet another example of how artificial intelligence is enhancing a person's job, or in the future could potentially replace a human job. For, as I said, a hospital may have 20 schedulers managing the hospital surgery schedulers, but with AI, maybe they only need 5, maybe they only need 4, right? And then in this case, also with the micro-robotic, being used to treat a patient's brain disease. Well, what does that mean for the nurse that's practicing at the bedside? I'm a nurse first. I work in technology, but I always think about the patient at the receiving end of care, and how not only the physicians, but also the nurses adjacent to that patient care how that might change their practice. And Char Willie, Conversations with Char Willie, she's here. Good. Hi, Char Willie. Thanks for tuning in. That's it, y'all. I will be sure to leave a link to both of these. I find these healthcare technologies, both of them, very fascinating. If you have any questions, my contact information will be in the description. Thanks, everyone, as always, for supporting this channel and also sharing it with your friends. I did see this week that the channel passed 700 subscribers. I am just flabbergasted because I think in January, the channel only had 400 subscribers and it's now at over 700. So I really appreciate everyone who supports it by watching the videos, liking them, and sharing it with your friends. And that's it, y'all. I hope everyone has a good evening. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see y'all in the next video.